What if every argument in your home feels like running laps in a maze with no exit? Just the same walls, the same turns, the same accusations. And no matter what you say, you're always wrong. I used to think arguments were supposed to solve something. Two people talk, find the issue, fix it, right? But that's not how it plays out in my world. In my world, every disagreement becomes a circular trap. You start with one complaint, then suddenly the problem mutates, shifts, becomes something entirely different. And by the time you think you're answering the question, you've stepped on a landmine. Why do some arguments feel engineered to never end? Why does logic just evaporate? That's the part of the story I never understood until it exploded in my face again. We're three adults living under the same roof. Three separate worlds crammed into one cramped emotional apartment. I'm in my 50s, tired, worn down from decades of trying to decode storms I didn't create. My ex carries a lifetime of unspoken grievances, sharp enough to cut air. And our daughter, grown, capable, smart, still somehow locked in a permanent adolescence, drifting through the house like a ghost who refuses to leave the afterlife. The place always feels like it's holding its breath. Coffee mugs rattling in the sink, the hum of the refrigerator, the soft thud of footsteps pacing the hallway, the quiet tension before a storm. These are the little markers of normal in our home. Arguments don't start with shouting. They start with something much smaller. A sigh, a look, a tone shift so subtle you'd miss it if you weren't trained by years of repetition. And after that tiny shift, I already know I'm done for. Because I don't argue for sport, I try to solve problems. Find the root, untangle the knot. But what if the knot wasn't meant to be untangled? It started one evening when the house was unusually quiet. She came into the room with that look, chin tightened, eyes narrow, like she'd just discovered a mistake I hadn't made yet. I didn't know what the topic was going to be, but I knew the rhythm, the pattern, the script. She started with something small, something trivial, something that shouldn't have mattered. Why didn't you put the thing back where it belongs? No big deal. A normal couple would talk it out. But as soon as I answered, the ground shifted. It's not about the thing, she snapped. It's about you not caring. I blinked. I just forgot it. Exactly, she said. You forgot, like always. There it was, the first pivot. A tiny complaint transformed into a character indictment. I tried to stay calm, keep it rational. Look, if something's bothering you, just tell me directly. Wrong move. Her eyes flashed like I'd just accused her of a felony. Oh, so now I'm the problem, she said. Another pivot. Suddenly the argument wasn't about a misplaced object. It wasn't even about forgetting. It was about me attacking her. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. The shadows on the walls stretched like claws. And I realized, again, this wasn't a conversation. This was a setup, a stage, a performance. And I'd walked right back into the spotlight. That's when the loop began. She threw out a complaint. I answered it. She twisted the meaning. I tried to clarify. She spun the meaning again, around and around like a carousel of chaos. Every time I thought I had addressed the issue, she shifted it. It was like arguing with smoke. Every time you reached for it, it slipped through your fingers and reformed into something new. She said, "You don't listen." I explained what I heard and she said, "That's not what I meant." I asked, "Then what do you mean?" She said, "You should already know. How the hell do you fix something when the instructions change every 5 seconds?" In those moments, I felt like I was standing on a floor that melted under my feet. My words had no traction. Logic was useless. Reason was gasoline on the fire. But the loop didn't just stay between us. Our daughter got pulled in too. Sometimes she'd side with her mother. Sometimes she'd attack both of us. Sometimes she'd storm off and slam a door just to add another layer of chaos. You'd think the three of us would eventually learn the pattern, break it, do something different. But the truth is, we just spun faster. And then came the mid-story cliff. One night, mid-argument, she said something that froze the whole room. See? This is exactly why things will never change. Never change. Not need to change. Not should change. Will never. But then it hit me. These arguments weren't about solving anything. They weren't even about the topics themselves. They were about emotion needing a release valve. If she was bothered by something deep, something old, something unsaid, she'd find any random object to aim at. The real issue wasn't the conversation. The conversation was just the spark. The dynamite was buried somewhere else, and suddenly all those times the topic shifted made sense. The goal wasn't resolution. The goal was emotional discharge. You can't win a game when the rules aren't written. You can't fix a problem when the problem isn't the problem. I had spent years trying to bring logic to a battlefield where logic wasn't the weapon. Emotion was. And she was better armed than I ever was. The breaking point came on a night when the argument loop spiraled so hard it felt like time folded in on itself. She came at me with a fresh complaint, something tiny, petty, meaningless. But the energy behind it was volcanic. My chest tightened, my pulse kicked up, and for the first time, I didn't try to solve it. I just stood there, silent, letting the words hit me like hailstones. The room felt like it was shaking. Harsh shadows climbed the walls, turning her silhouette into something jagged and monstrous. Our daughter appeared behind her, arms crossed, eyes narrowed, feeding off the storm. She demanded answers. I gave none. She demanded explanations. I stayed still. Her voice rose, cracked, turned sharp enough to cut skin. She wanted the loop. She needed the loop. But I didn't step into it. The silence broke her pattern. She didn't know what to do without the back and forth, the spinning wheel, the predictable dance. And then, like a final strike, she screamed, "Say something." I looked her dead in the eye and whispered, "There's no right answer." Everything snapped. The storm cracked open. And for a brief second, all three of us saw the truth. The loop wasn't an accident. It was a system, a cycle, a cage we were all stuck in. After that night, the house felt different. Not calmer, not healed, just exposed. It's strange how once you see a pattern clearly, you can't unsee it. You realize you've been fighting the wrong battle with the wrong weapons. The takeaway? You can't solve a circular argument with logic. You can only step out of the circle. If this hit home for you, stick around. There's much more to this story, and the next part might be even more familiar than you want it to be. If you've ever been trapped in a loop like this, watch the next episode. It goes deeper. And subscribe if you want more truth without the sugarcoating.